Well, today, Jessica Strickland and I are here at Long's Plant Farm on, what's the name of that road?
It's just off of 70. I think it is Long's Plant Farm Road.
Oh.
It's the name of the road.
Yeah.
We're in the Elroy area.
In the Elroy area, Elroy community, and we're very happy to be here at Long's Plant Farm. And man, you talk about stuff. They have the stuff out here.
It's the time of the year. We kind of had a slow start in the spring, but if you go to, your local garden centers like Long's and some of our other garden centers around in the area, they're just popping with color. We've got all our annuals and perennials and all those popular hanging baskets, people search out.
Yeah.
So it's the time of the year to start getting those and add them to your landscape.
And I like the way she's got everything kind of laid out here. She's got roses over here, and begonias over here, ferns.
You got geraniums.
Geraniums down the way, petunias. These are petunias right over here.
Yes, that's
all right. She has tall plants and short plants, but now historically, I think I'm right about this. When someone's looking for bright color or color combinations, you get the most variety from annuals.
You do. The annuals are your big pop of color. Annuals, what we mean by an annual is it lives 1 year. So every year, those are the plants you have to buy again. A lot of times, if you look at their origin, it's usually more of a tropical climate, so they just don't survive our winters. Now you might have some that reseed themselves and come back from the ground, but usually they'll live their whole life cycle as far as germinating, growing, producing flower, seed, and then die within a 1 year time frame. So that's what we refer to as annuals, but that's where we get all our color from. Their perennials live every year and come back every year, and they do have color, but we use annuals a lot in the landscape because we need that pop of color, maybe at the front door or along the driveway, somewhere where you got a lot of traffic and a lot of, it's being seen quite a bit.
Are annuals generally a smaller or lower to the ground plant?
They do. They tend to be smaller. Now, some of your geraniums, if you overwinter them and bring them inside, they'll continue to grow and get larger. I had a geranium that I brought in last year in the sunroom, and it's huge now. It's a really large plant, but a lot of your annuals tend to be your smaller plants. You buy them in small containers or in 6-packs, where it has the little 6-pack cells, and so those tend to be the shorter plants that you usually put in the front of the landscape or in containers.
Okay, but now my idea and my thinking is that annuals are good for color, yes, and it's a good thing that you do need to replace them each year because change is good when you change it out each year.
That's right, and some people say, well, that means I have to buy them every year and I got to change it out, but that's, again, a lot of times with the landscape, you focus on that being your higher traffic areas where it's visible, your containers and such at the front door, at the front of the house, and that's the fun part about it is you can change the color, you can change, change it every year and just dress up your landscape, so they really add something to the landscape that if you left them out, you wouldn't get that addition.
It'd be the same thing every year.
It would look the same every year.
It'd be kind of boring after a while, maybe. But and also annuals are generally less expensive, aren't they?
Yeah, they tend to be, a lot of times you get them in smaller containers, so they're not as expensive. A lot of people buy a flat of them, and if they're, got a certain type of plant in particular they're interested in. But even, too, you've got sun-loving annuals and shade-loving annuals, so your shade ones are your begonias, your impatiens are the popular ones, and then your sun-loving ones, you're looking at, petunias, some of those types, geraniums, and so forth. And just like with the petunias off to our side, some do wonderful in hanging baskets. So if you have a deck or a porch that you're putting hanging baskets, that's a great place to add color too.
And petunias come in so many different colors.
They do. There's so many different colors, so many different kinds. There's, some of them have more of a ruffle around the edge of the petals. They're just all different styles. And I think that to me is the fun part with annuals is that you can change and try something different every year.
Right. That's right. Okay. Well, let's take a look at some of the plants that are available here at Long's Plant Farm. You can also find them elsewhere, but gee, what a variety she has
absolutely.
here. She's got a little bit of everything.
I mean, it's just beautiful to walk through and see all the color here.
Okay, now we're going to be looking at some geraniums here, but you pulled a tag from one of the pots of geraniums. What information is on that tag?
The tags are very helpful. If you're not as familiar with some of the plants or you're looking at a new plant to try, this is usually the first place to go to is to look at the tag. Also, too, your local garden centers are great for the staff being very knowledgeable and can help. So that's the other source I would recommend, too, is talk to the staff and ask questions because they're growing these plants. They're very familiar with them. But if you're not, the tag's one place place to look. One thing is, it's always neat to see some of these names as we see these different colors and types of annuals. You know, this one for this geranium's pink. It's a raspberry Twizzler.
Oh,
so you know, some of the names are really interesting that they get.
But you can't eat it, right?
No.
Sounds like you can, right? It sounds like a treat, doesn't it?
But it's got a pinkish color to it, so that's where it gets its name from. But the first thing to look at is full sun or shade, because think about where you're going to put them. You're going to make sure that the light requirement matches that. So this one does have a little sun here that says full sun.
Okay.
A lot of times you're told if it's full sun, partial shade, or full shade on the tag.
And that's extremely important.
Yeah, that would be one of the first things I would look at.
The first things you look at is to how much sun it's good for.
That's right.
Full sun, shade, or in between.
Yes. And the other thing I'd look at, you know, is just this one's got general information. It tells that the fragrant foliage attracts bees and birds. It says it needs 6 or more hours of sun each day, so it's back to the full sun. Water is light, so the water requirement might be something you're interested in, because annuals, that's probably one of the hard things with annuals is they do need water, especially if they're in containers. Usually containers need a lot more water than anything else. And so you want to consider the water requirement as far as making sure it's close to a source of water, so you're not having to pull the water hose around and try to get water to it, so you can keep them going through the season.
Okay.
It does have spacing, so if you're putting several out in a bed, the spacing for this is 10 to 12 inches, and it gives the height of the geranium is 12 to 14 inches, and it blooms spring to fall. So you get a lot of information just from that tag.
Just from the tag.
And then too, now even too with technology, and we've got our smartphones, you've even got the little codes there that you can, you know, check on and get more information too. So that's even becoming more common.
Okay.
With these tags.
Very good. All right. All right. Now we're looking at a geranium here, and this is a very popular plant here. It's an annual.
It is.
And it's not going to live but 1 year.
Yeah, it's only going to live 1 year if you leave it outside. You can bring it indoors and overwinter it and try to hold on to them that way. But geraniums are very popular. They have kind of a rounded leaf that has kind of some wave in it. And it's got a fragrance to it. And when you smell it, there's a little bit of a fragrance that's unique to geraniums. But it's got just beautiful blooms in all different colors. There's reds and pinks and whites. And a lot of people use them in containers. A lot of times you see a lot of these in containers, you know, at the front steps or near front doors and so forth. So they really do add a lot of color.
How easy are they to care for?
They're very easy to care for. Watering's the big thing, just like with any annuals, and you make sure they stay watered. But the water requirement's not too heavy, so they don't. You can get by with not having to water them.
Not as much with these as it would be other annuals.
Yeah, other things might require more water. Otherwise, one thing that, you know, as you see the blooms start to fade away, you can deadhead, which simply means you go in here and you just simply pinch off that stem. That lets the plant's energy go back into the plant and produce more flowers.
Now you say when the blooms start to fade, you just go near the base of the bloom stem and then pinch that.
Yeah, find the end of that stem and pinch or cut that off.
What does that do?
That'll encourage more flowering. It allows the plant to put energy back into the rest of the plant.
Okay.
And instead of, you know, this that's already fading away, and you're producing then more flower.
All right, now Jessica, we've moved over here to trays of plants now.
Yes.
These are not as tall, but how fast do annuals grow?
A lot of times they'll grow pretty quick.
Yeah.
They're going to flower. They're already in the flowering stage, so they're going to grow pretty quick. You know, and just with a little bit of care, like we mentioned, the water and fertilizer can make a difference. I think watering's the big thing. A lot of times people forget about them and they fade away pretty quick, you know, if you're not careful. So you really have to watch them, especially in the beginning when you first put them out. You go back to thinking about that they've been watered. You know, they're watering them here once or twice, you know, a day. They're really taking care of them. So if you take them home, you put them in a dry spot and forget about them, they'll fade, you know, in a couple of days. Yeah.
Okay.
And hard to recover, you know, if they really do wilt too much. So prevent them from wilting, keep them watered, especially at the beginning, and then, you know, just monitor it and keep a close look at them.
So they should do okay if you do everything right.
Yes.
Is there going to be some natural shock, if you will, to the plants?
There could be. When you transplant them, there could be some shock. That happens when you transplant, annuals or vegetable transplants and so forth. And it's just kind of babying and taking care of them, making sure they have water, and even too, if you want to, maybe before you plant them right away, is kind of set them in a shade, let them kind of adjust some before you plant them. So gradually acclimate them to your area that you're going to put them in before you plant them.
That makes sense. All right, now I see a wasp on a couple of these right here.
Yes.
And that's a good thing, right? Even though people are afraid of wasps do the same thing bees do.
They do.
Right?
They're good insects as far as pollinators and such, and as long as you're not after their nest or anything, they're not going to bother you unless you just actually grab it accidentally.
I'm not going to grab that wasp over there. No, I'm not. No.
So, but yeah, that's having a lot of flowers. It does draw in a lot of butterflies, and we see there's several insects when you start looking flying around. So they're great for attracting insects. Good insects, and those good insects help control some of your bad insects. So the more of them you can draw in by having some flowers, whether annuals, especially we got a lot of perennials that are good for beneficial insects like cone flowers and so forth. A lot of your daisy type flowers are very popular for butterflies and moths and other types of beneficial insects.
Now, what about the not so beneficial insects like aphids? Now, the wasp and bees, and there are actually insects that attack these aphids.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and occasionally you might have some insect problems like aphids. Aphids probably one of the most common. So you do need to check and look at the foliage. Some people just looking this way, you won't tell much.
No.
But if you actually look into the plant, look under the leaves, along the stem, just check them really close. And
aphids are little white
dots,
right?
They are. They're little
tiny
fragile
white
insects.
Things. Yeah.
And usually something like insecticidal soap is the least toxic and will do the trick for an annual.
Now that particular insecticidal soap is rather weak compared to the others, but it's also environmentally safe.
It is. So when you're attracting beneficial insects, you don't want you got to think about an insecticide is going to hurt both, the good and the bad.
Good and the bad.
That's right. So go with the least toxic and see if you can get control with that first, so you don't harm your beneficial insects. Because even too, it's been found that with insecticides, your beneficial insects don't recover as quickly as the bad insects.
Oh,
so you really want to protect and care for those good insects that are around.
Now, is this a marigold?
This is a marigold, and this one's a good one that it has a scent to it, and it's a good one for being known, even putting in vegetable gardens, that it helps to deter some of the bad insects. There's just something about that smell. That just
they have
insects seem not to like.
A certain
odor to them.
I hesitate to call it a fragrance because it's not really a fragrance, it's more of an odor. And the bad insects, most of the bad insects will avoid these.
Yeah, they don't really like them a whole lot. So adding those in, are great.
Yeah. And there's a variety of colors. Got the yellow, the orange, and the variegated.
Yeah, there's a lot of different colors and also a lot of different heights. You can find taller ones and shorter ones. So marigolds have a wide range, and you can see by the bloom, there's just a lot of bloom, and it really adds a pop of color.
Now, Jessica, we're looking at something called portulaca.
Yes.
Excuse me, portulaca here. And this is a mixed color flower. Yes. And it's absolutely beautiful.
It is. It's what we'd call a lot of times a succulent. Succulents tend to have very fleshy, unusual leaves in that they hold a lot more water, so they have much more of a fleshy feel to it.
Right.
And this one's a good one. A lot of succulents, even though you might not think it when you look at them, a lot of these succulents are more drought tolerant because they're holding more water in their leaves. And this one in particular is very popular like in rock gardens and so forth. So they can really handle, some dry spells.
They can. So it's a tough plant.
It is.
Very
yes,
tough.
they are. And a lot of color with
Lots
these.
Lots of color. But now you don't need to get down here and deadhead these, do you?
You could. It can help because you can see there where some of it's a seed now.
Yeah.
And you can take those out. It helps with the appearance, but then will just help encourage the plant to grow more and bloom more.
All right, and that's nice. And you don't have, and you're going to get multiple colors in each little tray there.
And they're low growing, full sun, so they're great along the front or along a border.
Yeah, lots of different color. That's great. That's right. That would be a good border plant.
It would,
because it grows so low.
It does.
Very
it
low.
Stays low to the ground.
All right. We moved into the area of coleus now, which sounds like a town in South Carolina, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, this is a gorgeous plant with talk about variety of color.
Oh, yes.
How hard is this to grow?
They're really very, very easy to grow. Require very little care.
Great.
Most of your coleus like some partial shade or shade. You're, again, just like we were talking about in patience earlier, starting to see some sun coleus starting to show up now too. Again, it's just one of those, it takes time for some new things like that to get on the market where you find them, but there's, you hear rumors that, things like that are coming. But this one is not as much the flowers. This is one annual that you're not looking at the flowers, you're looking at the foliage.
The foliage.
The foliage is fantastic.
The leaves are just every color imaginable.
It is.
This you don't see this color a lot in plants.
No, and you've got just a wide variety of color. You've got more lighter greens behind us, where you got darker, colors, even a purple on down.
Wow.
And green color. So there's a lot to pick from. Very easy to take care of. Probably the biggest chore with this is deadheading it again. And this one, it gets a little purple flower, a little blue purple flower on a stalk, and you want to pinch that off because the flowers aren't that popular.
If you see a little flower blooming on a coleus, you want to pinch that off because that doesn't really.
Pinch it off. It'll be right at the top. You pinch that off because what'll happen is if you don't pinch that off, it gets taller and taller and it gets what we call leggy.
Oh yeah.
Instead, if you pinch those off, it's going to encourage more side branches, and that makes it look more bushier, fills
Fuller.
in more full,
Yeah.
and more compact. And so that's a draw, as far as a container or some type of basket, that you want it to be full instead of tall and leggy.
Okay, and again, we want to look at the tag here, that it grows to about 2 feet if you let it. Foot and a half, 2 feet.
Yeah.
And you want to space them about 12 inches apart. And then will they fill in? Will that make a nice border plant? Or?
They can fill in. Again, it goes back to that pinching. That'll help them bush out and fill in.
You got to pinch them.
Instead of them growing tall and upright.
Yeah. Okay, lots of color. All right, now we're talking with Ms. Elizabeth Smith, and gee whiz, what a place you have here.
Well, thank you.
Now, how did this all get started?
Well, my father, Major Long, back in around 1943, which was the year I was born, began sowing some cabbage and collard seeds out on something like, we used to have tobacco beds growing.
Plant beds, sure.
We have them in greenhouses now.
Okay.
But anyway, he started that, and very slowly over the years, he went into growing tomatoes, peppers, all different things, marigolds, little things. There's a huge amount of things that are available now that were never available that long ago.
Right.
But in the 1950s, he branched out into wholesaling to F.W. Woolworth, Uptown, used to be Uptown, and some of the other stores. And he would wrap his plants in waterproof paper with sawdust around them and deliver them to those stores. And then in the early 60s, he put up his first little greenhouse, and it was like a 40 by 20, something like that, and started experimenting, with growing things that way. And then he put up 2 more in the late 60s, 70s, and he died in 1976.
Okay.
And then I took over the management of it, and since then, and we have grown with a huge variety of things now.
I should say so. Do you grow all this stuff?
No, sir.
Okay.
Actually, somebody that grows 50 million petunias can grow them a lot cheaper than we can.
I understand.
And we can come in and we can buy them. I'm just saying that as an example.
That's a good example.
We can buy them. And, and with the economy the way it has been, and now for several years, some of the things are.
But still, Elizabeth, your pricing is good. Your variety is just amazing.
Well, thank you.
You just have a little bit of everything out here.
And we have come down through the years, and I now manage the place.
Well, congratulations.
And thank you.
You're welcome.
Or it manages me part of the year.
I understand, yeah. All right, now we're up in a pecan tree. It's pecan, not pecan. But it's a pecan tree, and I tell you what, this is one of the largest you will see anywhere, and there's a reason for that. And we're going to talk to Ms. Elizabeth here in just a second. We're going to find out all about the history of this pecan tree. Of course, it started growing long before the Longs were here. Right, Ms. Long?
Well,
Smith?
we were probably Uzzles back then.
Oh, were you now?
That was my background. My grandmother was a Uzzle.
Okay.
And my granddaddy was Long.
I
so
see.
This land was in the Uzzles' hands at that time. And this pecan tree, someone dated it back several years ago to around 150, but they said they didn't know without us letting them go into
The
it.
core,
and
the
we
core.
don't want
Yeah.
we don't want that done.
No.
Around 150 could be 170, so we don't really know. But it is the second largest in North Carolina, and if you want to see the largest one, it's in around New Bern somewhere.
Okay. So
but
this
we
is
don't know exactly where.
We want to say that we don't know where it is.
No, we don't know. I figured maybe Tryon Palace because
Yeah, 'cause
you know
that's-
they
yeah.
preserve and have so much.
Might
So
be.
they may have preserved their
could've
something like that.
So now this is the second largest
Second
pecan
largest.
tree in North Carolina.
At the time it was measured about 5 years ago, that's what I believe it was the Forest Service or somebody we called, and they got in touch with them, and so it's recorded that it
Okay.
is the second largest.
Okay, now 200 years ago, let's see, this is 2015, that'd be 1815. So, let's see, 25, so it's about 1850 or so.
I would think so,
About
yes,
that
sir.
time, 1850, before the Civil War.
Right. It
Which was
like
not
I
a
say,
civil
we-
war, it was an uncivil war. But
Right.
That's beside the point.
That's
But
true.
about that time, before the Civil War, is when it started growing. And it's been, and I don't see any places that looks like it's deteriorating or anything.
Well, we have
Do you
tried
keep
to.
it?
We have tried to. Any dead areas. It was larger actually, and we had it trimmed a little bit this past year because it was larger than this coming over in
So you were
here.
getting shade where you didn't want shade. Then.
Right, well, true, and that way, but you would be surprised, Wayne, if you come up this driveway here or this walkway
Right.
and you get from the sun to the shade,
Yeah.
the temperature immediately seems 20 degrees cooler.
I noticed that. Yeah, I'm not
Up
going
here in
home.
this shade.
I'm going to stay right here.
So we have a lot of customers congregate up here at times
Yeah.
because it's so much cooler.
Yeah, it is cooler up here. All right. Very good there, Miss Elizabeth. Appreciate you telling us about that pecan tree
Appreciate you coming out very much.
there. All right. Happy to do it. I
And
appreciate you
looking.
letting us come out here. Now, you're at Long's Plant Farm on Long's Plant Farm Road. Just come on by the new State Cemetery, which they're still working on. It's going to be beautiful out
I
there.
think December 12th, maybe.
Something like that, yeah.
Oh,
All right. Well, thank you
it's
so much for
open,
talking with us, and thank you for letting us come out here and take a look at Long's Plant Farm.
Oh, I'm glad you did, and thank
Thank
you
you.
too, Jessica.